You could live in one unit and rent out 3 other units in a fourplex and be in it 100% loan to value, and have essentially your tenants are paying your mortgage every month. So it's a pretty good deal.
Welcome to the Going Long Podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And I am your host, Billy Keels, and I am very excited about welcoming you to today's wonderful, fantastic conversation. And listen, before we even get into it, there's a number of things, and I just want to continue to thank you for continuing to dedicate your time, invest it with me, with our fantastic guests, because the fact that you continue to come back and let us continue to share with you is something that is phenomenal. And at this point, we've also in the top 2% of podcasts globally, which is amazing because there's like 2.8 million podcasts. Very excited about that. And one of the main reasons that we have continued to be able to add value for you is because you've continued to leave us your honest written reviews as well as ratings. And if you haven't done that yet and you've received any bit of value from any of the episodes ever or conversations from our guests, just take a second to do that, because it's going to help us to attract even better guests for you that are going to help you to get exactly what you need on your long distance investing journey. So also, if you've missed any of the episodes and you really want to catch up and you want to find out, or you've listened to it once and you want to go back and you want to find this specific conversation, you can find every single conversation that we've ever had, both audio and visual, at billykeels.com. Just go over to billykeels.com/podcast, and you can find every single podcast for every single guest that we've ever done. And there are well over 150 episodes at this point in time. So once again, go to billykeels.com/podcast, and you can find out about what's going on there and all of the different guests that we've had on the podcast, on the Going Long Podcast. So once again, there's one other thing that so many of you have also been asking, or you've written me, you've contacted me, and you really want to know, like, hey, Billy, what are a lot of the different things that you are also doing? So for those of you that are accredited investors, and there are a number of different ways that you can be an accredited investor, either income, if you've earned $200,000 a year for the last 2 years and you're expected to do the same, or as a household, it's $300,000, and from a wealth perspective, you have over $1 million in wealth, and not including your personal residence. You can do that. And I think there's also another way that you can do it by actually going out and taking a test. So if any of those things sound interesting and you are an accredited investor and you want to find out more about some of the different investment opportunities that we have, feel free to just send us an email at aiclub@billykeels.com. Once again, that's aiclub@billykeels.com. So we're going to get into today's conversation just after this, and really looking forward to you joining us today. Whether you're an active investor or a passive investor, you really like your day job and you want to continue to go into your day job every single day feeling better, knowing that you've created the right options for yourself. At the same time, you just don't have enough time to really get your head around, spend all the hours investing long distance. Well, one way or the other, over the last number of years that I have been investing long distance, I've really understood a number of the major mistakes that you should avoid if you want to get to creating the right options for yourself much faster and being able to create more income sooner. And if you want to do that, if you want to understand more about that, I've made it really, really simple. You can just go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. You can learn all the things that the 7 major mistakes that I've seen over and over again that I want you to avoid. Once again, you can go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. If you're a busy professional who's ready to step into an operation investing now, then guess what? This is the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word, because today's guest not only started out as a systems engineer in the military, he also went on to become the Director of Operations of the U.S. Air Force, as well as the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, in Space and Counterspace Division. And he is also the founder of Operation Restore LLC. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Johnny Lynum. Johnny, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Billy. Glad to be here today.
Johnny, I after having met you and having watched your story, I know that you have so much value that that you're going to be able to add to everybody that's part of the Going Long family. Your long distance story and just the things that you have done, both professionally as well as now what you're doing as an active investor is phenomenal. So looking forward to today's conversation, and I know the entire Going Long family is as well. And you know what? I like to ask everybody the same 5 questions, at least the first 2. Just like everybody else, and the last 3 are going to be like everybody else. And then in between, you and I are just we're going to get to know more about you and what are all the awesome things that you're doing. So I guess the thing is, if we can get right into the first question, I would love to do that. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
So the very first thing, Johnny, where do you actually live in the U.S.?
So I live in the Northern Virginia area outside D.C., in the Loudoun County area.
All right. Fantastic. So Northern DC, appreciate that. And then the other thing is love to be able to start out with some positivity. So what's the most positive thing that has happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Man, so the last 24 hours for me, it was celebrating my anniversary with my wife. We over the weekend and just flew back in yesterday afternoon. And so for, just waking up last day and just reflecting on how grateful I am with where we are, being married 11 years. And just what we've been able to achieve together, and with just the blessings that we have in our life, because it's not guaranteed, and a lot of times you can't control it, but we're just blessed.
Well, fantastic, and congratulations on 11 years of marriage. And I know when you can wake up and think about that, like most positive thing, well, I'm sure that jumps right to the top of your mind. Also, too, man, I do want to say one thing, because I mentioned earlier about your service in the U.S. Air Force and things like that. So just from the very beginning, I would like to thank you very much for your service and everything that you do for so many people. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
So, and also too, Johnny, look, I always try like the first couple seconds just to give a high level overview and tell your story. But I mean, you've done so many things, man. It's impossible to tell your story in like 8 seconds, although I always challenge myself. So I would love for you to really help the Going Long family understand more about you, the journey that you're on, and also too, if you can really share some of the key decision points that you have made to get to this point in your journey, and then you and I will kind of take it from there and see how we can also help the Going Long family to connect with you.
Most definitely. Yep. So for me, was originally born in Detroit, Michigan. First 8 years of my life lived there with my family. Then my dad, he joined the ministry and moved back home to Watley, Alabama, a town of probably 600-700 people, red clay dirt roads. And so that was a big change, big culture shock for the whole family, my sister and I. But it was definitely for the best. Grew up there, was able to excel in school, came from humble beginnings. I finished third in my high school class, got scholarships, and went off to the University of Alabama. But before that, I actually had a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship out of high school that I ended up declining, turning down. And the Air Force told me if I came on campus and did good one semester, that I would qualify for a full ride once I got there in the spring. So I took them on their word, and I had other academic scholarships, and it worked out. And that was one of looking back on it, reflecting that was one of the best decisions I ever made, not knowing. My dad's a Vietnam veteran. Mm-hmm. He said, if the Air Force said today it's highly likely that he would give you a scholarship, he's like, comparing the Army way of life and the Air Force, I recommend you go to the Air Force. So, and it worked out. And from there, man, just first duty station, Robins Air Force Base, about an hour and a half south of Atlanta. And that's where the real estate bug kind of bit me. Didn't know about passive investing, but I knew after buying my first property, my second year of being active duty, that using my VA loan, it's like, okay, I'm paying $350 less than what I was paying for my apartment building. And I know when I move here, the realtor told me that I can rent it for a little bit way more than what I'm actually paying for my mortgage. I actually put that money in my pocket. So it was like, okay, then, from there, it was like, okay, how do I scale this? How do I do more of this? Mm-hmm. And it just became a journey from there, moving on to my next duty station, finding a foreclosure. This time, I learned about foreclosures. I had joined the Real Estate Investing Association there in Middle Georgia. And so I was learning all along the way for those next 3-4 years. And then in January 2011, bought another foreclosure and moved in and, 2.5 years later, Air Force said, hey, it's time to go back to the North. It's time to go to Northern Virginia. So we found that we did it again. We got another HUD foreclosure, moved in. All three with my VA loans. So for me, the saving, having student loans and things like that, I wasn't able to put in a whole lot over savings over time. But with me, the VA loan, I didn't have to I had put zero money down on all three of these first properties that I bought. And, was able to transition them to rentals. And during this time was kind of when we started being a little bit more active. I bought my first rental property, actually long distance, back in my wife's hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. And, just bought a $25,000 house. Didn't necessarily do a whole lot of due diligence. It was rented for $750. The number cash flow made sense. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And, I did that for a couple of years and then cashed out and eventually started actively flipping and did our first flip here in the Virginia market, 2015. From there, started virtually flipping in Birmingham, long distance, 10 hours. I would literally drive down, kick off a project, get multiple contractor estimates up until we built our crew, and we get the project done and leaned heavily on my agent and a family member there in town. And we made it happen, doing a couple of deals a year until we started scaling up in the Panama City market here the last few years.
Fantastic. Wow. So there's a lot to unpack there. And you mentioned a couple of things from the beginning, actually getting started from the systems engineer perspective. And then, as you moved around, I just want to make sure that we are also understanding kind of a little bit of some of the things that you talked about and then some of the places where you were. You talked about a VA loan. So I know that we've heard that sometime in the past, but it's been a while since we've heard that. So for some people, can you actually just tell us what the VA loan is and who that would specifically help?
Yep. So for veterans or active duty members that the federal government has approved, pretty much, you've heard of FHA loans, essentially the same thing, but there's 100%, they guarantee the loan for the bank. So it's lower risk for the bank. And the service member that most of us, unless you're separated, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a paycheck. And so from the lender's perspective, you're in the low risk category. And it's 100% loan to value, no money down. And there's a little bit more red tape with the closing, but it allows a veteran to buy a house with no money out of pocket. And so it's a powerful tool, but essentially because with the same lending standards as FHA, you can go all the way up to a 4-unit. So you could live in one unit and rent out 3 other units in a fourplex and be in it 100% loan to value, and have essentially your tenants are paying your mortgage every month. So it's a pretty good deal.
Okay, fantastic. So just once again, it's another tool to be aware of, and if that is something that a member of the Going Long family can qualify for, they want to reach out, find out more about that. Appreciate you breaking that down for us, Johnny. And then one of the other things. So when you were you living in the same places? So you mentioned that you were in Alabama, and then you were in Virginia, if I followed you correctly. But just maybe you could walk us through. Were you initially doing living in the same place where you were renting, or where you were owning, or was it always long distance?
So it was always long distance from, because with me, I transitioned when I would PCS, as we call it, permanent change of station, and move to another location. I would leave that rental behind. But after we got to Northern Virginia in 2013, it was like, okay, I've been learning a lot. We had, bought a few foreclosures, and, it was like, okay, we need to buy some rentals, some cheap rentals. And so we started virtually looking in Birmingham. And from there, bought the first $25,000 house, then we bought another one for $6,400, did a virtual, put like $15,000 in it. And then we rented it out and put it on Section 8 there. It wasn't the best part of town in Birmingham. But, we had a somewhat reliable contractor. We got the work done and we could manage it from Virginia, whereas that, somebody that went to college with me, I had family in town and I knew a realtor. So for me, I built a team around it, built a system around it, whereas I didn't have to be boots on the ground. I can look at pictures. I can assess risk by, okay, this house is a foreclosure, but somebody lived in it 2 years ago, so it can't be terribly bad. We can go in and add value. So that's kind of how I built it around from there before we did our first hands-on flip. And then after we did that successfully, we took it virtually to a market in Birmingham where it was a lot cheaper than Northern Virginia, where the numbers just worked out and the risk was a little bit lower. Okay, so lower risk, numbers worked out in a more favorable terms for you as an investor. So that absolutely makes sense. And sometimes people would say, all right, well, Johnny, you have a military career, you're moving up, you are gaining more responsibility, higher grade, more salary.
like, and you said that you caught the real estate bug, but do you come from did you have influence from someone in your family that was in real estate, or was this literally just something that you fell into?
Fell into honestly. So my first property was one side of a duplex, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, a little bit less than 1,000 square feet. And another lieutenant buddy of mine, he was like, "Hey, Johnny, I found this duplex, bro. You need to get one side. I need to get the other side, and let's do this." And I had just started my MBA, so I was doing the school thing and really wasn't looking actively out looking for a house or anything. And he presented that opportunity. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And just it opened my eyes up to real estate and just the power of cash flow when looking at the rental component after leaving out, and just the whole financial literacy kicked that into gear for me. Something that you didn't really get as an electrical engineer, for sure. Taking all the math and courses, they don't lean as much on the business side, which is it could, if you don't have come from the right household, it could really hurt you in the long term.
I can completely understand that. I graduated with a marketing degree, and that is more business related. And I still didn't learn about the financial intelligence stuff. So that takes place way afterwards. I don't know if that's by design or whatever, but hey, look, we have that in common as well, Johnny. So when you were looking at, so you fell into this duplex thing, and you started having your eyes open to that. At some point, were you trying to solve a problem for yourself that made you open your eyes even more and say, "Wow, this is it"? But you, in the back of your mind, you were trying. You guess what kind of problem were you trying to solve for yourself when you started moving closer to this real estate or tangible assets world?
For me, it was building wealth. For the most dominant figure, then and probably now when it comes to real estate is Donald Trump. And you start looking and seeing the buildings, not paying taxes and just talking about depreciation. And you start reading and looking, it's like, okay,
legally not paying taxes.
Exactly, it's all legal.
Legally not paying taxes.
100% legal. Yeah, most definitely. And you look at the tax advantages with real estate, and it's like, okay, how do I do this? How do I put it? For me, I love my job, always been all in on the Air Force, and knew I wanted to make a career out of it. So it's like, okay, from day one, how do I put systems in place to be able to buy these properties, put a team in place? Because I don't have the time. I'm going to be working, 9 to 5, if not deployed, or, working TDY, working 2 or 3 weeks out of town. So it's like, I need to have a team and leverage other people's time. And so, I kind of approached it from that mindset after we got going. But for me, it was always, hey, how do I build wealth, generational wealth for my family? And, continue to, because it was always for us, it was always, hey, save your money, save your money. It wasn't necessarily invest your mony. And I think that is a big difference between saving and investing.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we talk about a lot here, Johnny, is I come from a family where when you saved money, that was considered investing, because typically you're just going you're making it to the end of the month. And so if you were able to save, that was kind of, you were in the investing class. So once you learn that saving is one thing, and really investing and being able to make your money, make more money, it's a completely different mindset. So one of the things that you talked about is this whole concept of being able to build teams. So you're an extremely busy professional, and you help other busy professionals. I have a day job. I'm very, very busy, very demanding corporate role. And I'm living in Spain and investing exclusively in the United States. You're living in Northern Virginia, and you're investing all over the place, even as far as Florida. So talk about this leveraging other people's, I say, other people's everything. And you talked about leveraging other people's time. So help people, because sometimes it's conceptually very difficult for a lot of people to understand, like, how do I do that? Because I'm so busy in my job. How can I actually go out and do that? You've done it, Johnny. So talk to us about, you kind of highlighted it earlier, but help people that are busy professionals that are also interested in understanding either how you've leveraged other people's time or how they could potentially leverage other people's time.
Yeah, that's a great question, Billy. And, going and digging it and peeling it back, I really kind of assessing, like, how did we get here? How did we put all this together? And, but it's really, at the root of it being a military officer and leading dynamic teams with, dealing with combat situations or, just the normal day-to-day stuff, and a lot of people out here, there may be middle management, management within a company, that you have the skills to put all this together to lead these teams. But it all goes to the leadership, whereas that you are able to assess the right people. They have the right character. that you align yourself with. For me, being in the market, having family there and knowing some people from college, it allowed me to kind of know already what some of these people stood for and had a relationship with them. And from now, it's like, okay, hey, I know you're a contractor. You started your business. Like, hey, how about you go look at this house for me? Check it out. Let me know what you think. And I could really rely on that person. And so same thing with the realtor and, working in. For me, I had to dig in. I did a lot of my deal flow myself, was my marketing, reaching out to find motivated sellers. But a lot of it, is just if you build relationships with the right people, whether it's your realtor or other investors or syndicators on the multifamily side that are finding the deals, and you have this, you share the same values, then it's a good fit. But there's always the diversification piece, whereas that you figuring out, hey, what areas do you want to be in? What areas do you want to stay away from? And from there, it's just, okay, how do I go into this market and find the right people with this networking and RIAs, or, right now, networking on Zoom meetings for different meetups in the local area, and just, hey, checking that box, building authentic relationships with people, and then just seeing how it could be mutually beneficial for everyone.
And so what it sounds to me like, not only looking for the mutual benefit, but really you are taking time to build relationships. I mean, just in that last track, you were talking about a number of times, you talked about relationships and the importance of relationships and building relationships and spending time. And also you mentioned one of the words was character, to understand the character of the individuals that make up your team. I think that's one of the things, Johnny, that goes really overlooked many times, is making sure not only are you having people that are competent on your team, but they have in the same type of a character that you want on your team. Because at the end of the day, they're there representing you in the way that you would basically carry yourself. So I think that is phenomenal. Did you want to add something on else to that?
Nothing really to add, but I 100% agree that, the character, it goes a long way, because in real estate, and we both know that things happen always. The business plan doesn't always get executed as you originally wanted to, but that's when the character kicks in, where it's that, hey, somebody going to be committed to see the business plan through, and they're committed to make sure that they do right about the private investors that's involved in the deal. And, that's one of the biggest things that's truly humbling. When I started working more with private investors for our operation, it was like, wow, there's no more humbling feeling at all to be able to have somebody give you their hard-earned money and trust you to do right about them, and to execute this investment and to give them the return. So I think that you definitely want to be aligned with the right person when you start looking at making you investing your hard-earned money.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, when it comes to that, and let's maybe pivot a little bit to talk about, because I know that you also are helping and working with different types of investors, whether they're accredited investors, that they are sophisticated investors. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about kind of what took you down that path, because that is actively investing and doing things on your own and with your own capital is one thing. But when you fundamentally decide to also allow other people to invest in opportunities that you have, that takes a mind, like it's really a different mindset. So what was it that gave you that kind of mental fortitude, I guess I like to say, to make that switch, not just handling your own goals and your own dreams, but now handling people's goals and dreams?
Well, I think it came from, the wanting to scale up. We were in the Birmingham market from 2015 to 2017, and we were kind of doing one flip at a time. We'll renovate a property, sell it, take the capital, and then we would go find another one on them. Back then, you could find them on the MLS, you could find them on auction.com. And so it worked for us. It was fine. We brought in friends that saw what we were doing, coming over for, to hang out to watch a ball game or something. Just like, hey, how the real estate's going? Back then, I really didn't post and share on social media. And, once Panama City came into play, I got hit with a deployment 6 months after we got there. So we bought another foreclosure there. We renovated it. We were in a hotel for like 45 days, and then moved in. And like 2 months later, I got notified I was deploying. So didn't really get a chance to build a team there. But after I got back from my deployment and found out 2 weeks before I left, the wife was pregnant. So fast forward 6 months, man, I got back. I built so much in my business during that deployment. I was working at midnight, because there's nothing else to do. When you're deployed, you're working, and depending on where you are, if you're in the active combat zone, it's a whole lot different. But for me, I was forward, but I wasn't that far forward into the fight. And for me, so it's like, okay, you only can go to the gym a couple times a day. And, but I found out about virtual assistants and, the systems with my lead gen. So I was ready to go when I got back from my deployment, September 2018. 3 weeks after I got back, man, we got hit by a Category 5 Hurricane Michael, and devastated Panama City. And we were displaced for 6 months, and with the newborn baby and 2 other kids. And so hopping around Airbnbs and beach rentals for 6 months until we got back in our place. But I thought that was a setback, but it was actually a setup, because there were literally overnight after that storm, there were thousands on top of thousands of dilapidated homes all over the area, and homeowners needing help with making renovations to their house. And many chose to just walk away from the house, whereas that they sold it as is, kept the insurance money, and just sold the house as is for cash, and to investors that could come in and put a crew together and renovate them. And so with that, we're wanting to scale up, and the need that was in the community, I had to start raising money. And in order to do 3 or 4 deals simultaneously, just whereas that we had enough cash flow to operate the business.
Wow. So, I think I love what you just said. You said you could have taken it as a setback, but it was really a setup, really to allow you to go out and help other people. You saw a specific opportunity. There were lots of people that were going the opposite way, probably saying, how do I get out of this town? And your mindset was, how do I help to rebuild what is here, and how do I also help to bring other people on board? And it goes back to one of the things that you were talking about before, just being able to, that leadership mentality, because that is something most people would run away from. You ran towards, but not surprising knowing you and your character as well, Johnny. Wow, don't you just love this conversation? This is amazing. This is fantastic. And so just really quickly, I just wanted to remind you, for those of you that are looking to create more options for yourself, get there faster, and do that with long distance investing, make sure that you go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid, so that you can avoid all those mistakes, get to your goals faster and sooner. Once again, that's billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. Now back to the conversation. So listen, so one of the things that you also, because you've talked about maybe finding and carving, you haven't really said it, but I know sometimes people are, you're a busy professional. You either want to do things yourself, or you're looking for people that can actually help you because you're a busy professional. You love doing what you do. And so you want to leverage someone else's time, like Johnny's time. And a lot of times people are looking for someone who is a specialist in something. And that could be a number of different things, but what's your philosophy on just kind of figuring out what is your niche and what do you feel that you do best? Because I know a lot of people need help with understanding, how do I carve out my niche? How do I recognize what my niche is, or my niche, however you want to say it?
Yeah, and I think with me, it's definitely the fix and flip and going through. And for me, initially it was just, hey, generate the capital. But now it's transitioned to, okay, we cherry pick, we keep those that we want as rentals, and then we sell the rest. And now we take those profits and roll them into multifamily, buy apartment buildings, where there's even more, bonus depreciation and more tax advantages and, economy of scale and all the benefits that come with it. So now, our niche is kind of evolved. But for me, it's the bread and butter, the single family home, and being able to provide value, especially in this market, and then just kind of transition that into long-term rentals. And so with that, a lot of people is like, hey, I'm interested to get started. What should I do, or how should I get started? And, everybody's situation is different. And I encourage people, figure out what it is that you like. Read a little bit about self-storage, multifamily, mobile homes, single family. What do you understand? Because whatever it is that you invest in, you need to understand the asset class. Kind of how does the market, how does the economy, what are the last 20 years, what's impacted that value of that asset? And so you can go in and be knowledgeable and come from a position of knowledge versus, leaning directly on a active investor or a general partner to lead you the whole way without you just kind of sheepishly going along, just bad and nodding your head, and you're not really understanding what they're saying or what's going on with your asset, because nobody cares more about you and your retirement than you. So I think that's the biggest for the audience to take away from that.
Yeah, completely agree with that, and I love just the fact that as everyone, you look to find whatever your niche is, then it's really a matter of understanding. Okay, well, what problem are you trying to solve for yourself, and then get educated. Because to your point, if you're not educated, then you will just go down any track. And one of the things we talk about here a lot, Johnny, I started investing in duplexes, so small multifamilies. And then I realized that I had other problems that I was trying to figure out. And so I then moved in and bought a mobile home park, then started investing passively with other people and found out about these awesome bonus depreciation rules, and then had these other problems because of my high income and needed to figure out other ways. So I got into the energy sector. And so as long as you are understanding what problem you're trying to solve and you're connected with people like Johnny and you understand what he can help you to do, then there are so many different tools outside of Wall Street, right, that are here on Main Street, but we just have to be able to connect with one another and talk about what those tools are. And the more educated you are, the better that you can make the decisions for yourself. So I love that. I love how you also broke that down for us. One of the things that is very inspiring also too about you, Johnny, when we met, you were telling me about being able to tell your story. And so I know that being able to tell your story and writing and being able to do that is also something that you're very passionate about, and it's something that you do a lot of work on. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about where that passion comes from in terms of being able to tell story and be able to tell more about yourself, and also helping others to get in touch with their stories.
Yeah, I think it just really comes down to, my beginnings and just everything that my parents instilled into me about just, being the best at whatever it is that you do, and that you have greatness in you. And I think for me, it's like, okay, how do I share that with the world? How do I touch and impact as many people as possible? Because I think that's the real call of, any individual is just, hey, when we leave this earth, how many people's lives did we change? Just how many people are actually going to say, hey, Johnny was a good guy. He actually impacted me in this kind of way, and my life wouldn't have been where it is without him. And that's what I'm shooting for. And for me, man, this year it kind of turned into a book opportunity. With starting out the writing and everything, and then just from just congratulating somebody who had just written a book, a colonel friend of mine, and she wrote a book while she was still active duty service, and commented on LinkedIn. And the professor that was over the program, he's like, hey, if you're really interested in learning more about this program, we just kicked off our next cohort. We kicked it off last week. So it's still time to join up. And man, I'm going to tell you, Billy, I threw out every excuse on why I couldn't take time to write a book, from like, hey, we just moved here. I'm doing I just set a goal 2 weeks ago for the new year. We're doing 15 projects in Panama City virtually this year. I got the kids getting to school. I'm getting started in a new job. He's like, I don't care. He's like, you can do this. It's like, you're going to be able to do it. He says, it's an hour a week. You're going to get going. We're going to teach you what to do. And man, that was February 21. And now we're close to the end of the year. It's done. Got the draft manuscript turned in. I literally turned in to publishing. They start printing in a couple of weeks here soon. So it was just a phenomenal opportunity. And now, I lost my mom along the way this year during the summer. And it just means so much more. That it's like, looking back, I was so glad that I took my own advice. Basically, I became comfortable being uncomfortable, and now just being able to reflect on that and just the values that she instilled in me is like, hey, this is it. It is something that's going to stand the test of time that I can hand to my kids. Like, hey, this is what we did. And then, another part, just the great people that I met and stories, and your story, and just other real estate investors and other investors' story that was able just to talk with and to bring in and to just show people like, hey, this is what success looks like. And this is where a lot of people came from corporate America, still in corporate America, and still been able to find success in real estate investing, and just sharing those success stories, man. It's been powerful.
Wow, man. And I congratulate you for going down that path, being able to share your story, to be able to live and be able to share. And that's also building your generational wealth, because you're sharing your story with so many other people and sharing those lessons. So congratulations. It's something that's extremely inspiring. And we definitely want to know more about the book once it's launched, and we'll get out there and help make sure that people can know more about your story, man. So, which is phenomenal. So, so here's the thing, Johnny, these conversations just fly by, man. They go by like so
They
fast,
do.
which is amazing. Now, before we get into the going long final three, because we got to get into the going long final three, I would love for you just to kind of tell us a little bit more about what are some of the things that you are doing over at Operation Restore LLC and Operation Invest Now, so that people can understand just a little bit more about those lives that you're looking to impact.
Yep. So two companies that we started. Operation Restore is focused more so on the front end, that's working with the motivated sellers, people who may be experiencing distress. That's centered around real estate that we're able to provide a solution for. Operation Invest is the education piece and the syndication, if you will, for both the single family and multifamily. We bought our first multifamily in Panama City last year, and syndicated around that deal, and that was a phenomenal experience and opportunity going through with our first syndication. And now it's just a really of educating investors on that part, and and providing passive opportunities for them to invest in what we're doing with the single family asset in the Panama City market. And then also something that's we're launching here in the next couple of weeks is for those that are actively wanting to participate and become single family investors, whereas that they want to learn about deal flow, whether they want to do a fix and flip, or if they want to do a BRRRR where they bring it in and add them to their rental portfolio. We're just teaching all of that, our system basically in a box, just the whole find, fix, finish, the 3F method that I use, and just aligning with them. So that's something that's coming out here in the next few weeks that we're starting to do to help, those that want to be, I work with I've talked to a lot of realtors that want to, hey, I got all these deals I'm giving to investors. I want to become an investor. I want to build a team, and they have the time to do it. So it's like, hey, yeah, so those wholesalers and realtors that are on that side of it, to just teach them, hey, this is how you can become an investor and how you can put a team together to start keeping some of these assets and add to your portfolio. So that's really the mix that we kind of have between, with Operation Invest and Operation Restore, and just continuing to grow it, man.
All right, fantastic. So, and I know we'll get a chance to learn more about how people can contact you and know more about Operation Invest as well as Operation Restore. So fantastic. Uh, but here's the thing: we got to get to the going long final three, men. But the only thing is, I never ask anybody the going long final three unless they tell me that they're ready. So my question to you, Johnny, is: are you ready?
I'm ready.
Why did I know you were going to say you were ready, man? Here we go. So listen, we started with you over in Northern Virginia on that side of the pond. And because I'm over here in Europe, I want to bring it back to this side of the pond. I guess I can do that as the host of the show. So I would love for you to share with the entire Going Long family, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or are still on your bucket list to visit?
Man, for me, it was Paris, France. It's just for us the wine, the culture. My son he's like, I want to go back to the Eiffel Tower there. I want to go back to the Eiffel Tower. And for Paris, it was just. But that's the thing. I got to get to Spain though. I haven't been to Spain yet. I got to get
not
there
yet. I like
check
that.
out
I like that.
Barcelona.
Not yet. So you got an open door here, man.
For sure.
All right, Paris, and I've got a special place in my heart for Paris. That's where my 1-year sabbatical started 20 years ago. So, it's a phenomenal place. So, with that, there's this thing that I've also noticed, and I guess I consider myself very fortunate because I've seen a lot of very, very successful people as we go into question number 2. And the thing that I've always noticed, Johnny, and you've probably seen this as well, like people that are extremely knowledgeable and people that are, they have it really, really going on, is one of the reasons that they're successful people is that they tend to make like no mistakes along the way. And that's why they get oh, hang on a second. I get nervous every time I get to that question and I kind of lose it, but I think it's by design actually. So all seriousness, the thing is, all successful people, I think a lot of times we get this like thing in our head, like the only way you can be successful is don't make any mistakes. And that's absolutely fundamentally not right. Because what successful people do, because everybody makes mistakes, and most very successful people make a lot more mistakes than others, but they do one thing very, very differently. They make the mistake, they observe, they watch, and they adapt and react. and they take a lesson from it, right? They take the away lesson and then they react in the future. And so I would love for you to share with us, not the mistake that you made, but what is the one lesson that you know is going to be really impactful for someone today in the Going Long family to hear? What's that one lesson you want to share with us?
No, and I think that's a great question because so many people don't really think about, lessons learned and failures, because we're all taught through grade school, don't get an F, failure, you got this wrong. We focus on the negative connotation that comes with making a mistake. And so they're risk averse about taking mistakes. But at the end of the day, that's something that I brought into my parenting philosophy. Like, hey, did you learn from this? Perfect. It's a lessons learned. It's not a failure. It's okay. Yeah. And for me, man, it's just due diligence. That first rental I bought long ways away back in Birmingham, I didn't ask the right questions. So I encourage people to do your due diligence, ask questions, and do your research to know the right questions you should be asking. Because I didn't ask about, hey, when this tenant moves out, how much deferred maintenance, how much CapEx am I going to roll into this property, even though I just paid $25K for it? And so that was the question that I didn't ask. And, and I found out the hard way that, I had to put $10,000 into it when the tenant moved out. Yeah. It was like, oh, yeah, I should have, it was just up and down like, oh, $750 a month cash flow. Perfect. Let's go. And, didn't really do a lot of the due diligence that I know to do now. Right. And, so I encourage people, definitely do your due diligence, ask the right questions.
Phenomenal. And yeah, definitely do your due diligence, ask the right questions, as you said. And then when you are, if you're looking into getting you're doing fix and flips that are at a distance and you don't necessarily know the right questions, you can reach out to somebody like Johnny, who is actually doing this all the time. Because I'm going to guess that having a conversation with Johnny, he's going to help you think about things that you maybe didn't think about. So also in that, if I could just build on what you're saying, Johnny, to also not be afraid to find those people that are doing things that you want to be able to do, because they're going to help you be better in your due diligence process. So with that, it comes to the very last of the Going Long Final 3, men. And this is really about helping us to feed our brain. So will you share, what is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family, Johnny?
Yeah. So for me right now, I think the biggest, the largest impact that I've seen with the book, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, just the story of success. And he goes in and does the research and brings it into the stories that just kind of help with just looking at geniuses over their lifetime and why certain ones were successful and why they weren't, hockey players, law firms in New York. So, and it just goes through the research and data behind, from everything from, why are Asians more, they're better at math than Americans, and just looking at the subtle difference of where people come from, the culture of Western culture versus, the Asian cultures, and, the ability to help people excel and be successful, that, it's not just, luck of the draw, that it's a lot of things that go behind the scenes that lead up to who we are and why we're successful.
Yeah, Outliers and those famous 10,000 hours, I think have a lot to do with that. So it's a book that's also impacted me a lot. So we're going to go ahead and add that to the list as well. So Outliers is your book recommendation. And wow, man, starting in Detroit, heading down to Alabama, getting involved, watching your father in the Army, and then you getting this opportunity to get some scholarship and be able to do and be a part of the Air Force. You did that. From there, you allowed yourself to move to different places, have new experiences, be deployed, and you found this love for real estate. And not only was it just the real estate, but then it also has helped to open your eyes to new understanding, more financial intelligence, building new relationships, going into new locations, building teams, using your leadership capabilities. Now also getting out there, helping other sophisticated as well as accredited investors get to their goals and dreams faster by leveraging your expertise, your time, and being able to do that in a way that is surrounding yourself with other people of high quality and high standard. Johnny, I know that so many people that have listened to you tell your story, that want to understand more about what's happening with you, with Operation Restore, with Operation Invest. I know that they want to just reach out to you because I want to keep talking to you forever. And I know they want to get in touch with you. So help us understand, what is the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you and what you are doing?
Yep. So most definitely the easiest way, JohnnyLynum.com. You can see everything that we have going on, opportunities we have. If you want to reach out to me, contact me there. Instagram, Johnny Lynum, REI Vet is out there. And then, of course, LinkedIn, Johnny Lynum. And happy to speak with anybody has any questions, or if I can be of any benefit of, and help provide value to them, by all means, definitely reach out.
All right. Fantastic. And one thing I would add is when you reach out to Johnny on LinkedIn, just let Johnny know that you heard him and I speaking here on the Going Long podcast, because it's going to help him continue the conversation a lot easier. So, and it's just that way. Also, Johnny knows that the Going Long family is active, and we reach out and we connect with experts. So that is what we do here in this abundant community. So, Johnny, man, listen, I really, really appreciate you deciding to invest your time with me and the entire Going Long family. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And thank you very much, man.
No, thank you, Billy. I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I appreciate it. And listen, for the entire Going Long family, I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.